Boom! He's back. A large part of people's lives is consumed by an obsessive preoccupation with things. This is why one of the ills of our time is object proliferation. Object proliferation. When you can no longer feel the life that you are likely to try to fill up your life with things. This is what I meant. As a spiritual practice, I suggest that you investigate your relationship with the world of things through self-observation, and in particular, things that are designed with the word my. My bike, my house, my car, my children, my this, my that. You need to be alert and honest to find out, for example, whether your sense of self-worth is bound up with things you possess. Do certain things induce a subtle feeling of importance or superiority? Do certain things induce a subtle feeling of importance or superiority? Does the lack of them make you feel inferior to others who have more than you? Do you casually mention things you own or show them off to increase your sense of worth in someone else's eyes and through them in your own? Do you feel resentful or angry and somehow diminish in your sense of self when someone else has more than you, or when you lose a prized possession? The last ring. When I was seeing people as a counselor and spiritual teacher, I would visit a woman twice a week whose body was riddled with cancer. I'm gonna skip that story because it's kind of long and it's not the kind of thing I want to... the illusion of ownership. You know, that's the kind of thing I want to point more to. You know, the stories, I've read them myself. There's something very good, very inspiring in stories, but I want to put more the point on Don't take the ego too seriously. When you detect egoic behavior in yourself, smile. At times you may even laugh. How could humanity have been taken in this by this for so long? Above all, know that the ego isn't personal. It isn't who you are. If you consider the ego to be your personal problem, that's just more ego. To own something, what does it really mean? What does it mean to make something mine? If you stand on a street in New York, point to a huge skyscraper and say, "That building is mine, I own it," you are either very wealthy or you are delusional or a liar. In any case, you are telling a story in which the thought form I and the thought form building merge into one. That's how the mental concept of ownership works. If everybody agrees with your story, there will be signed piece of paper to certify their agreement with it. You are wealthy. If nobody agrees with the story, they will send you a psychiatrist. You are delusional or a compulsive liar. It is important to recognize here that the story and the thought forms that make up the story, whether people agree with it or not, have absolutely nothing to do with who you are. Even if people agree with it, it is ultimately a fiction. Many people don't realize until they are on their deathbed and everything external falls away that nothing ever had anything to do with who they are. This is why I've never been lost in the world of things. I'm doing this journey. Anyway, to me, like, I've never been materialistic. I never put importance into that. I knew that's not where I'm gonna find myself in things. I'm gonna find myself in reflection, not in things, not in going to buy things or consuming things. No, I'm gonna find myself by having reflection, by coming to talk to myself. coming here to talk to myself and expand my awareness. Expand my awareness to a level that I can inspire others with my awareness and consciousness. And, that's where I want to pour my whole consciousness is in that Motivation Academy. That's where my whole consciousness is. For sure, it's in gaining traction, gaining knowledge, gaining strength, especially strength. You become very, very strong at one point. This is the thing. You become so strong, you become unstoppable, and nothing can stop you. You just go after your stuff constantly, and you don't stop. Nothing will stop you. Nothing. Yeah. To own something, what does it really mean? Yeah. It is important here to recognize that the story and the thought forms that make up the story, whether people agree with it or not, I read this. Blessed are the poor in spirit, Jesus said, for theirs will be the kingdom of heaven. What does poor in spirit mean? No inner baggage, no identification. Not with things, not with any mental concept that have a sense of self in them. And what is the kingdom of heaven? The simple but profound joy of being that is there when you let go of identification and so become poor in spirit. Poor in spirit. This is why renouncing all possession has been an ancient spiritual practice in both East and West. Renunciation of possession, however, will not automatically free you of the ego. It will attempt to ensure its survival by finding something else to identify with. For example, a mental image of yourself as someone who has transcended all interest in material possession and is therefore superior, is more spiritual than others. There are people who have renounced all possession but have a bigger ego than some millionaires. If you take away one kind of identification, the ego will quickly find another. It ultimately doesn't mind what it identifies with, as long as it has an identity. Auto-consumerism, anti-consumerism, or anti-private ownership would be another thought form, another mental position that can replace identification with possession. Through it, you could make yourself right and others wrong. As we shall see later, making yourself right and others wrong is one of the principal egoic mind patterns, one of the main forms of unconsciousness. In other words, the content of the ego may change. The mind structure that keeps it alive does not. One of the unconscious assumptions is that by identifying with an object through the fiction of ownership, the apparent solidity and permanency of that material object will endow your sense of self with greater solidity and permanency. This applies particularly to building and even more so to land, since it is the only thing you think you can own that cannot be destroyed. The absurdity of owning something becomes even more apparent in the case of land. In the days of the white settlement, the native of North America found ownership of land an incomprehensible concept, and so they lost it. When the Europeans made them sign pieces of paper were they equally incomprehensible to them. They felt they belonged to the land, but the land did not belong to them. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's a good book. The ego tends to equate having with being. I have, therefore I am. And the more I have, the more I am. The ego lives through comparison. How you are seen by others turns into how you see yourself. If everyone lived in a mansion or everyone was wealthy, your mansion or your wealth would no longer serve to enhance your sense of self. You could then move to a simple cabin, give up your wealth, and regain an identity by seeing yourself and being seen as more spiritual than others. How you are seen by others becomes the mirror that tells you what you are like and who you are. The ego's sense of self-worth is in the most case bound up with the worth you have in the eyes of others. You need others to give you a sense of self. And if you live in a culture that to a large extent equates self-worth with how much and what you have, if you cannot look through this collective delusion, you will be condemned to chasing after things for the rest of your life in the vain hope of finding your worth and completion of your sense of self there. Peace out.